Good afternoon and good evening, South Sudan. This is Gender Talk 211. My name is Eva Lopa, and I am back for a brand new episode with you. Today, I don't have my co host with me. Jackie has exams, so she won't be joining us today, but she will be here during the next episode. Today, we discuss an issue that we've discussed for a very, very long time, and that is who is a South Sudanese? Who is a South Sudanese to you? Are you the person next to you? What makes them South Sudanese? What gives you that identity? Today, we're going to discuss all of that and more with my guest, the amazing and beautiful Dr. Sandra Banks. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Eva.
Welcome to the show. I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of Gender Talk 211 because we have a lot of gender issues that we need to handle and talk about in South Sudan, not just the one we're going to cover today. But it's a pleasure to share our experiences and to share opinions and thoughts with our audience and to see how we can best bring those issues to light and
Yeah.
how we can find some solutions to it as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm actually very and extremely excited that Sandra is here with us today. And reason being, it's always good to have Sandra in the building, but reason being today that 2 weeks ago, Sandra wrote a very lengthy post.
Very lengthy.
Very
Sorry.
lengthy post, yes, regarding herself being a mixed race South Sudanese living in Juba. I don't want to tell you too much about it. I would like for you to tell us more about what that post was about and also what triggered you to actually posting it. Why don't you first introduce yourself to the good people?
Good afternoon, everyone, all the listeners, and good morning, good night to others tuning in from different parts of the world if you are. And thank you for tuning in to listening to us from South Sudan here. So my name is Sandra Christopher Banks. As maybe some of you might have seen in the post, I'm a doctor. I graduated from Juba University and I taught at Juba University and I worked at Juba Teaching Hospital as well. I went on to work mostly in infectious disease outbreaks, preparedness and response. And I'm just returning from a 1-year advanced studies program overseas as well.
Congratulations on that, by
Thank
the
you.
way.
But I think maybe one other thing that I don't really talk about much, but maybe it's worth noting is that I'm also former Miss South Sudan. That was a long time ago, about 10 years ago.
You were one of the first.
Ooh,
I mean, I think
yeah,
we
one of the
remember that.
first.
You were one of the first.
So that was a long time ago. And again, another event that was faced with a lot of criticism from me as well, being mixed race and being brown, as to maybe not really much deserving of the title. And so it kind of started back there. But yeah, this is just a brief summary of me. And yeah, I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you for being here. So I just want you to start by telling us a little bit about that post, the specific post that you shared, which went viral, by the way. And so many people started sharing their own experiences because you were brave enough to share your own. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that experience?
Yeah, so my post, it was very lengthy, as I said. I think I covered a few incidences that have happened to me. I'm not going to say they were very bad experiences, not at all. They were not bad, but when something keeps repeating itself and you feel a little bit of humiliation as to, I think the humiliation I felt is not because someone is judging me because of my skin color,
Right.
but the humiliation that someone is questioning my identity. I'm a South Sudanese and I'm proud to be South Sudanese. So why is someone questioning the fact that I'm South Sudanese? Why is someone asking me to show my papers, or someone threatening me to take my papers, for example? So it was that humiliation of, but I'm a South Sudanese, and yeah, I was born in Khartoum. I grew up in Khartoum. This country was one. We gained independence in 2011. 2 months after independence, I came back to Juba, and my first job was teaching at the university at the School of Medicine and work in the Juba Teaching Hospital. So here I am thinking, but I came to South Sudan. I returned to my country as soon as my country gained independence. I love my country. I came back to serve my people and do my part in building the nation.
But you're still being othered.
Yeah, so of course it's not something that is a common occurrence, but there are these few incidents that happen that kind of prick you a little bit. So you just go into this I don't know, vacuum or space where why is someone questioning my identity? And here I am. I'm trying my best to help my fellow South Sudanese and to support my fellow South Sudanese. And yeah, I'm a mixed race, but everywhere I go,
You're South
whenever someone
Sudanese.
asks me where you're from, I say I'm from South
South Sudan.
Sudan. And only when someone says, but you don't look like a South Sudanese, or how come you're brown? Then I would say, oh, I'm actually a mixed race. But my first identity is I'm a South Sudanese.
Right. But that's not the first identity that someone else
that is not
sees in you.
Yeah, it's not the first identity that someone else would see, and I totally understand that, because I do not look like the average, or honestly, I shouldn't be using the word the average or the typical South
Right, because
Sudanese,
what
because
really
what is the average South Sudanese?
Right,
What is the typical
right.
South
What
Sudanese?
does the South Sudanese look like?
Exactly. So I don't look like a South Sudanese, full stop. But what is a South Sudanese? What are the features? What are the distinctive features? I know we do have certain distinctive features known worldwide, like the world tallest people, the world darkest people. But again, we're 64 tribes, and in other literature, they say we're 72 or
More
even
than 64,
more. Yeah,
right,
we're more than
right.
64 tribes. And when you travel to the different corners of the country, you see the different appearances. People don't look alike; they look different. But we're all South Sudanese. So when I wrote my post, it was just me trying to just share some of what I've gone through. Like I said, there weren't horrible experiences, but it was just like that specific day was another moment. 'Cause I was away for a year, coming, and I just got back. And I'm like, but I came back to South Sudan. I didn't choose to stay wherever I went to get a job and live my American dream or whatever. I chose South Sudan. I chose to come back because this is my home country. I want to give back whatever I learned overseas to build my country. So why is someone questioning me? And I'm not gonna really go over the story again that was in the post, but I think another thing is maybe perhaps the approach. Um, I think sometimes I don't think I should even say if there's a certain approach that should be used for a local and a certain approach for a foreigner. I think all people should be treated the same. But you're a woman just walking randomly through a market. You get approached in a, and you respond in a local language, and it's questioned again. It happens randomly when I'm driving as well. I haven't driven my car since I got back because it's like, oh, you know what? Let me just chill a little bit and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, that post, it opened up. A lot of people shared their experiences,
Absolutely.
and I'm not talking about experiences of people who are brown or light skinned or mixed race South Sudanese, even people who are dark skinned. A lot of people who shared their experiences are actually dark skinned South Sudanese. Which again is an eye-opening thing. What defines me as a South Sudanese?
Right.
Is it
Right.
my physical features? Is it my I don't know, sense of nationalism? Is it a specific profession that I do or a job that I'm doing? So what defines me as a South Sudanese? So reading everybody's comments on these posts that were shared on different platforms and newspapers, etc. It was very eye-opening for me because I knew all along that I'm not the only person experiencing
Feeling
such.
that way.
A lot of individuals go through it, but I think let's look at the positive side of it. What can we do? Our country is going through a series of transformations. I'm extremely happy that we gained independence because the reason we gained independence is that we've been looking for that missing identity.
I
So
agree.
now that we have that missing identity, there's nothing more that makes someone proud as having an identity. So why are we why don't we embrace the diversity that we have that comes along with this identity? We see a lot of we see a lot of issues that happen in Juba, in other states, and
Let me before we come to Juba and South
yeah,
Sudan in itself, I want to take you back a little bit. You grew up in Khartoum?
yeah,
Okay, Khartoum. So
yeah.
I'm sure that experience was also different
It
from
w-
now the experience of over here.
Definitely, it was
What
definitely
was it like
different.
in Khartoum?
So my mother's family, of course, the civil war, people fled in all different directions. Others, north, south, east, west. My mom's family went to Khartoum, and I was born in Khartoum. Of course, the country was one at that time. It was Sudan, and it was also difficult being a brown baby in a house full of dark skinned people. It was difficult. There were a lot of question marks, of course, surrounding that. But I never saw any difference, and my family never saw any difference. My most of my friends didn't see any difference, and I think maybe also because of the culture and how people dressed back then. You easily just look like any. You look like a lot of other people. So because you look like a lot of other people, I think the only question mark was my name. My name always caused a stir. Like, your name doesn't sound Sudanese, or it doesn't sound Arabic or
So
whatever.
would you say in Khartoum you were more accepted?
Um, I'm not gonna say I'm not. I don't think I should use the word accepted, but I'll just say it just felt normal.
Like you were fitting in?
Yeah, I was fitting in.
Because the community is different, and just to go back, obviously Khartoum, the experience now for me would be the exact
It opposite
opposite
of
of
what
what
I'm
you
going through now.
exactly.
Yes.
Because Khartoum is where now
Yeah.
we, racism, discrimination, uh, that's where it boiled up from.
True.
And then the terms Arabs
Yeah.
is Arab,
Yeah.
and being light skinned was actually a preference,
Hmm.
right? Which is where now colorism plays a
And, and
huge part.
and that's the true definition of colorism, which is preference for a skin tone that is lighter.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So the experience now changes from Khartoum to here. In Khartoum, it was more of obviously really deep colorism going on. And we can even go into that. That is the root cause of skin bleaching. That culture started from there because now everyone wants to be the preferred color.
Yeah, and I think I saw an article by um, one of my Facebook friends. He wrote the article in Arabic, and I think he posted it today. And he was talking about the influence of, you know not really bleaching, but what happened to us as Africans to think that we should have a lighter skin tone.
Mm.
And he spoke about a lot about the history of how that came about, and the influences that has pushed towards that direction. But again, like we said, this is where the birth of colorism came, and which is the preference for a lighter skin tone. It's a stereotype, but I think there's a lot of history that goes with it. There's a lot of background stories, and there's a lot of factors that have led to it. Like, for me personally, I can't question why someone has chosen to do that, for example. But I think what we can do is to focus on, okay, we are all different skin tones. We all have different skin appearances, or we have different facial features. But let's learn to accept all of that. Let's learn to accept our differences. Instead of pointing out the differences, let's accept it, and let's take it in, and let's love each other as we are, not as we would want to be seen. Just let's love each other as we are. So
That might take us a
yeah.
longer way than picking on every piece of everyone's being. This is how people are. It's not easy to change. And someone should not be made to feel like they need to change to be somebody or to
Exactly.
belong somewhere. So now you came back to Juba, and the experience is now completely different. Same as for me, I imagine it was for you as
Mhm.
well. So would you say your experience is more so um, discrimination here
Um,
rather than colorism?
So I think I would go back again and say that my experiences, they're not like an everyday challenge, or it's not an everyday occurrence, and it's not everyone, it's not every person that discriminates against me.
Right.
It's, the once in a while incidents that I wouldn't even call it an incident. I would call it more of an interaction. It's an interaction that maybe some there was an exchange of words or use of terms that maybe might not be acceptable to me or acceptable to whoever was interacting with me. So I wouldn't say again that it's, oh, everyone is discriminating against me. No, that's not the narrative. But if you feel, for instance, that you're being, I will use the word discriminated, if you're being picked out of the crowd
Mhm.
because of your appearance, then of course it kind of pricks you a little bit. Like I said, you start expressing like, why me? And you start, maybe sometimes, or in some instances, you would look at other people who've been picked out of the crowd, and you guys all look alike. Then you start having this picture of, oh, we have all been picked out because we all look the same and because we look different. And I think that shouldn't be the case, because we've been through decades of war. People have fled in all
Absolutely.
sorts of directions. Like I said, north, south, east, west. Not just in the African region, but people went overseas, into the Americas and Europe and Asia, Australia, etc. And a lot of people intermarried, and even if people didn't intermarry, a lot of people who are born in these countries would also be considered citizens of these countries and nationals of these countries. So I see a lot on social media, for example, they would say South Sudanese American, or American South Sudanese athlete, or American South Sudanese model, for example. So um, I think this is a term we should accept, because
It's okay.
it's okay. Our country's been a lot, has been through a lot, and our people have gone in all different directions.
Right.
I'm seeking
And
refuge.
also, when you live somewhere for a long period of your life, you learn the culture, the traits, and everything. You become a part of that community as
True.
well, and you carry a lot of things from them where you feel like you belong. So it's okay to identify with that and also identify with your roots. That's absolutely fine. And I love how you're being so gentle with delivering your point. It's something that we all do need, gentleness and kindness. But I do want to make it clear that what Sandra experiences is discrimination. And although I've known you for a very long time, so I know that you have very tough skin. I know that
Very.
you have very tough skin, but not everybody does. And a lot of people do go through discrimination, whether it's skin color discrimination or in many different forms that
Ethnic
people have.
or feature, physical appearance discrimination. I don't
There
know
you
if there's
go.
a word for that,
No, there
but
you
because
go.
you don't look a certain, I don't know, form.
Absolute, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, speech. For
Yeah.
example, I get called Americana a lot,
and
right? And
and
it's
and again, that's something we really shouldn't, um we really shouldn't press on, because like I said, we went in all different sorts of directions,
right, right.
with our families, and some a lot of millions of South Sudanese were born outside. They've never come home, and they know nothing but the language of the country they were born in.
No,
But that does not
absolutely.
strip them of their identity
Of
as,
their
you know
South
what, you're a South
Sudanese-ness.
Sudanese.
Right. So speech is also another thing. And I saw on your post that a lot of people have come forward and said that as well, that because they don't speak, that they speak
Their
extremely
mother
good
tongue.
English,
Yeah.
they speak
Yeah.
extremely good English, they're not South Sudanese
Mm.
enough, or they haven't lived in South Sudan for long enough, then they're not South Sudanese enough, or they don't speak their mother's tongue, now they're discriminated against as well, or they just they grew up in a culture that they identify with more than they know the South Sudanese culture, and now they're being made feel less South Sudanese, and that needs to stop. Discrimination, we don't play that. First of all, South Sudanese come in all
Shapes
colors,
and
shapes,
sizes.
sizes. Yes, we are
Yeah.
tall. We're also short.
Yeah.
We are, we're light skinned. We're dark skinned.
Yeah.
And I feel like as people that have come from a place that was rooted in racism and discrimination, we should know better than to be discriminating against someone else. We should definitely know better. So I'm going to be very blunt in saying that discrimination is a no-no. And be careful of how you address people, how you speak to
Yeah.
people. And also, I want to ask you, the audience, online and also on air, who is a South Sudanese? Who makes, like, what makes that identity? There seems to be so many markers of who exactly
Yeah, and
is a South Sudanese.
I think these markers are things we should actually accept. We should not use it to to
Differentiate,
differentiate between
right?
ourselves. We should use it to say, "Oh, you're from this tribe, and that's beautiful," or you're tall, you're dark, you look like you're from this tribe. Accept it, embrace it, because you know what? This is your brother. This is your sister. We, like you said, we come in different shapes, colors, sizes, forms,
Yes.
whatever. 64 tribes, how 80 counties. You should expect a lot of diversity. I traveled a lot in South Sudan, and I've seen different places, different types of people, and sometimes I'll be like, wow, I can't believe, um, like this. We're still in South Sudan. Sometimes you feel like you've crossed the border somewhere,
Yeah.
but that's actually no. We're still in South Sudan. We have all this wide variety of names and cultures, and I think because of what our country has gone through, 5 decades plus of war,
Mhm.
and I think the struggle that our people continue to see with trying to find stability and trying to rebuild our country and our nation, I think I wouldn't say, oh, now is the right time to embrace our diversity. We should have already started embracing our diversity from that moment we were given our identity. You gained independence. We're
When
now one
when when
nation.
you say that, when we were given our identity, which is South Sudanese,
Yeah.
right? I think, like, for me, my experience when I came to South Sudan, obviously I was studying abroad, so I was coming back from there, and then before that I was in Khartoum my
Hmm.
entire life, so that's the culture that I know,
Hmm.
right? And then not coming into South Sudan, I felt an extreme disconnect with what being a South Sudanese means,
Yeah.
right? And I think a lot of us also really struggle with identifying. We identify as South Sudanese. We know we're
Yeah.
South Sudanese. We
Mm.
just don't know what that is. We
Ex-
don't know what that means.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
I think because there's that gap and that confusion, we try and fit in things that may limit other people from being South Sudanese.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's usually things at face value. They look like this, they sound like this, they should know this, which is not true at all, because I found peace with being South Sudanese in getting to know the many different South Sudanese cultures and traditions and
Yeah.
roots and
Mm.
histories. And that's how I identify, that's how I
Yeah.
know what being South Sudanese is.
And again, I would say I think it's the responsibility of each and every one of us to reflect upon our history, how we got here, what we've been through. I keep reiterating what we've been through, all the struggles that we have been through as a nation
Mhm.
should actually be the first reason that now we are coming together because of what we have perceived and what we've endured as a people. Because when we were experiencing all these differences, we were not experiencing it as individual tribes. We were experiencing it as, oh, from the southern part of the country, from the southern part of the country. So we went through thick and thin. So why not, let's I think this is the time to start learning about each other's, learn about your individual culture, learn about the cultures of other different tribes. It would be very good. I saw on the Facebook page of Gender Talk 211 the series.
Yes, this is a series. Go to Gender Talk 211 on Facebook and Twitter. The series is still ongoing, and get to know yourself.
Yes, and so far there have been 12 different images of different tribes, their attire, and a concise summary of the culture of that specific tribe. And we have a long way to go because we are
We absolutely
64
do.
plus. And I think whether the tribe is small or whether the tribe is big, my mother comes from a very small tribe, but we should know all these different tribes, and we should embrace that diversity. I think South Sudan now, or we as a people, we're going through a phase of healing, and through healing, we need to go through a phase of reconciliation. We need to reconcile with the past. We need to reconcile with the present,
Yeah.
to avoid faults and mishaps in the future. So we need that healing and reconciliation so that we can unite. And it's only
Yeah.
through unity that we're ever going to achieve anything.
Yeah. I think mainly knowledge.
Yeah,
We need
awareness.
a lot of knowledge, because let's be very clear and honest. We've been in war, all South Sudanese. Whether you were a refugee, wherever you were, you knew that home is at war, and you are suffering
Yeah.
the effects of it, right? And that did not allow us to get to know ourselves this entire time. So what we were doing is trying to survive somewhere else.
Mm.
So in that process, you get to know other cultures and other people and other communities and so on and so on. And we never got a chance to actually get to know ourselves. And I feel like questions are okay, right? I feel like you can ask when you don't really know, and you can feel however you feel, but um, get well informed, have enough knowledge, and then form that identity out of that knowledge
Mm.
that you get to know, right? I think that's what helped me a lot, and it also helped me not look at. I don't get surprised seeing, unique looking South Sudanese, and I don't get surprised.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a young girl and she had blue eyes.
Yeah.
Everybody
We
around
have
was really
grown-ups. We
shocked.
have grown-ups who are like 40s, 50s, 60s, and they have blue eyes. They have green
Absolutely
eyes.
right. And I don't get shocked anymore, because I think I've read enough and I've got to know enough, but enough for me to actually know that we are extremely diverse and more than we actually think.
Yeah.
So what we see at face value is really the surface.
It is the surface, and I think the reason I say it's just the surface because, well, maybe I wrote a Facebook post, maybe 10, 20 others shared their experiences, but there are thousands who may be experiencing um, minor minor interactions. I would still use the word interactions, not incidents, because these are not incidents, they're just mere interactions. But it it still makes you question yourself. But I
Yeah.
am a South Sudanese. I've been here, for example, I've lived here for very long. I've lived in Sudan my whole life.
Yeah.
So why am I being stripped of that identity? Why am I being approached in an identity that is other than what I am? And why do I have to? Why do I have to prove and even the even to prove that I'm a South Sudanese? Like, what do I have to go through to prove that I'm a South Sudanese? What do I have to show? What do I have um, to say, oh, I am South Sudanese? So we are, as the country keeps growing, as our fellow brothers, sisters in the diaspora keep coming back to the country, we're going to see a lot of different people.
Absolutely.
And I think, like I said, we cannot go forward if we don't know what is in
What
the
the
past,
past was about.
what the past was about. So let's learn about the past. Let's learn about our history. Let's learn about our culture. It would be very good if we had. I believe such shows or series are being put together, like the one Gender Talk 211 has launched on Facebook.
Mhm.
But it would also be good if we can have a formal show or a formal radio series or um, a formal mean of communication of sharing
About identity.
our identity, the different
Yes.
identities.
Okay.
Because through this, we will learn that, oh, we're not just what 10 tribes or 15 facial features. We are actually more than that. We may never be able to reach, of course, the 100% coverage, for example, but I'm sure through this awareness, through mass media, we should be able to reach that optimal level where
Yeah.
people can actually, you know what, actually, yeah, we are different, and we have brothers and sisters living in the far east or the far west or the far south who might look a little bit different, but you know what, they're not different, they're actually us, our people. So this awareness is really important.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I also think that, although they say 64 tribes, it could be more, right? We also have very limited knowledge of the 64 tribes that we do have
Including
names.
myself, yeah.
Right. I'm not even sure we've interacted or have seen
Yeah.
everyone that comes from the 64 tribes.
Mm.
I don't know if we know all of the languages that they speak. There's so much information that we do not know. So I think your idea is absolutely great, which is to create a channel of communication
Mhm.
that such things can be shared. We started by doing the This Is a series, which is still rolling out on our Facebook page and our Twitter page at Gender Talk 211. But I would love to hear from you how else we can create channels or spaces of sharing about our different cultures, even if it's a culture that we know a lot about. I think we still want to know more and just get to know who you are and the cultures that you don't hear or see a lot about. If you know more, I want to hear from you how we can expose that a little bit more. Even if I would love for Gender Talk 211 for us to do Facebook Lives and have conversations with other people. And since
True.
Sandra was so kind enough to come up with the idea, she'll co-host that live.
I don't have a problem. I would love to co-host something like that or be part of it, because I myself, I'm ignorant of all the 64 tribes, all the different types of people, different types of culture that we have in our country.
Yeah.
And as a South Sudanese, I should know more about my country than other people. Um, I spent a year in a school abroad, and I always spoke about South Sudan because it makes me proud to speak about my country. And when you're the only South Sudanese in a building with 4,000 other people, you're like, yay, I'm South Sudanese and I'm the only one here. And let me tell you a little bit about my country. So I had this very short online talk that I put together, and I had a PowerPoint presentation, and I was just because everybody has a negative image of our country, which is wrong, because we have all these beautiful things that are happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Beautiful people, beautiful places, beautiful culture, and the beads are just gorgeous.
Oh, yes.
Even the cows are magnificent.
True.
We have all these beautiful things about our country. Let's focus on the positive. Let's focus on the beautiful things. Let's focus on how we as South Sudanese or common South Sudanese can come together to loving each other more, and putting our hands together so that we can build this country. It needs us. So we need each and every hand. So we shouldn't be like pushing Eva away because Eva doesn't look like a
I
Southern,
agree. I agree.
We need each other to build this country up.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think when we spoke and I knew you were coming on the show, our conversation of how this conversation was going to go is a lot different than how it actually went
I
right
think it's
now.
better.
It's absolutely better. It definitely diverted. And I like that you're so positive and you have this really vibrant energy. You've always had that, but now it even makes more, not necessarily sense, but it's even more important right now, just knowing what your interactions have been like. So you're like using that, since you've
Yeah.
shared that experience,
Yeah.
I think your energy now has become more important. So I really love that you have this very open outlook to it. I know it's not what everyone thinks it's like, and I know that so many people would love to share their own experiences, which um, uh, they may be a lot more affected by it than
Yeah.
Sandra is, or they would like to share it from a different angle than Sandra did. And also, we are trying to be we are being positive about um, being unique, right? We're being positive about that, and we want to celebrate every single South Sudanese in every color that you are, every shape that you are, and size. that you are, but a part of positivity is also healing. So I just want to remind you that your experience also matters, even if it is an extremely negative experience and you are traumatized, very affected by it. It matters, and I also want to hear about that experience and how we can help you heal, or how we can hear your story to help someone else that's going through the same. So as much as we are being positive about it, it is not a negative thing for you to have gone through a terrible experience and want to share that. It does not dim any other light. It's important for us to know. It's of value. It also adds to the South Sudanese experience itself, which is not only one, it's many different ones, right? So I would love to hear from you as well. And if you have an idea of the South Sudanese identity, what makes you a South Sudanese, drop it down in the comments. And if you also have a suggestion of how we can expose more of who we are as South Sudanese, please drop it in the comments. Before we wrap up, I want to know from you, how do we become, you're very big on, let's be more practical about this. What works? Like, what do you suggest? How do we move on?
I'm going to go back to the last point that you shared, that yes, we did say there were interactions, but and most interactions were not positive. Most interactions were negative, of course. And I think maybe this is where we can start from. Maybe we can start by sharing the pain, because if you don't share the pain, and if you don't express what you went through, you don't let it out, you may not be able to make peace with it. You spoke about trauma, and I think everybody that encounters a negative experience does have some sort of residual trauma, and I'm not free from that. If you're afraid to say, I'm not going to drive my car today because I don't want
anyone to be mean to me, or say something that
I don't want to be mean to me, or I don't want to be pulled over several times while I'm driving, that is trauma, okay? And that shouldn't happen. So we should have a space where people would share their experiences, and we should have at the same time positive experiences being shared, because I think without positive experiences we can't actually heal from the negative experiences. So we need to balance the scale, and awareness is very important. And when we talk about awareness, of course, most importantly, awareness for the common South Sudanese citizen, people in residential areas, in villages, in offices, etc. But also awareness for maybe I would say awareness for also uniformed personnel or officials, because a lot of the interactions that were shared as comments in my stories were with
people in uniform,
or certain offices, for example. So I think this awareness should be on both sides, so that we can create that balance, because one-sided communication never works. The communication needs to be two-sided, or we need to go into dialogue, and like you need 2 or 3 people or more to talk about it. We can't just be sending the message. We also want to make sure that the receiver has received the message. So we need to create this awareness that on the different levels of community, the different levels of our governance, leadership structures. We need that at the village level, at the chief level. We also need to educate them. So it's not just me as a common South Sudanese to know my other 63 sister tribes, but the chiefs, the Salatin, commissioners, officials may also need to be made aware. I'm not saying that they're not aware, but it doesn't hurt to share more information. It doesn't hurt to remind people that we are actually a diverse group of people, and we're going through a phase of healing, a phase of transition. We need to reconcile, and reconciliation starts within you. It doesn't start at the commissioner's office, for example. It doesn't start at Advanced Youth Radio. It starts at the level of the individual.
Yes.
And once you have that change at the individual level, you will see it propagating
within yourself.
To others as well.
Yeah, I think we could have also gone a lot broader than we have today, because discrimination also occurs with people who aren't South Sudanese.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we've based this conversation
On
mainly
that.
on being, yes, on being South Sudanese,
Yeah.
but we do have people who aren't South Sudanese and are being discriminated against as well. And we do also have, like you said earlier, there are, you know, American South Sudanese American, or South Sudanese Australian. There's also people that's on the other, like Greek South Sudanese.
There's a
You know
lot
what I
of,
mean? There are
yeah, there's a
people who
huge Greek community.
adopted,
Yeah.
right, who
Yeah.
now identify as South
Yeah.
Sudanese when the roots aren't,
Yeah.
right? So there needs to be a respect, and regardless whether you are South Sudanese from the roots or not, you deserve respect, and the other person deserves respect as well. At the end of the day, humanity really, really matters. And I think we lack a lot of empathy and sympathy for people. And we become very insensitive to people who we feel are not South Sudanese enough, and people who aren't South Sudanese at all. So maybe we'll touch on that on more shows to come. But I'm just
But
saying it's very
I
important to
think maybe
respect. Yeah.
just to have an interjection there, when you look at the government structures, I'm just going to use government structures, for example, of countries like America, Canada, United Kingdom. They don't all look like the image we have of a typical Anglo-Saxon British, for example.
Right.
Okay. Like, for example, this next coming prime minister for the UK. When I look at the Minister of Health for Canada, he has Indian roots,
Right.
but he's a Canadian, and so I'm not saying let's copy paste what other countries are doing, but there's a reason that person became a Canadian. There's a reason that person is seen as an American. There's a reason that person is identifying as an Englishman, for example. So what, again, it still brings us back to the big question: who are the South Sudanese? What identifies me as a South Sudanese? I think talking about citizenship and nationality is just one part of it, because it's just one part of it. And of course, we have our constitution that lays out the different not categories, but the different criteria through which you can obtain a South Sudanese citizenship or a nationality, for example. But then again, we have millions of South Sudanese, overseas, who don't even have a South Sudanese passport, because but that does not, and in my thoughts, that should not strip them of their identity as a South Sudanese.
I agree.
So there's a lot of work to do, and I think we should start through media channels. And I think we might need to sit with some elders. We might need to sit with Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports, for example, to get some of our history, and have a series on the history of the people. I'm sure we have anthropologists in the country who can share the roots of the South Sudanese people and the different tribes and the different groups of people, and internal migration and external migration, because it's beautiful. It's just beautiful to know about the history of mankind in general. The human being traveled different continents and we became different people.
Absolutely. Yeah. More than that, we are people who could not be at home for a very long time. And we were accepted by other people because of that.
So we want to be accepted at home.
Right. So now at home, now it's your turn to accept others and be kind to others. But we will talk a little bit more about that when it comes to citizenship, immigration, and so on and so on. We'll talk more about that in the coming episodes. For now, do you have any last words for the good people?
I'd like to thank everyone who's tuning in right now, listening to Gender Talk 211, and keep doing it. And please follow I'm pulling a plug for Ava. Please follow the Facebook page because of the many topics that are shared there, and specifically related to what we discussed today. The This Is Us series, which highlights, for now, there are images of beautiful South Sudanese women of different ages, different features, different beads and ornaments. And I think I would also make a call to our leadership to support such programs through which different media channels and different media personalities can actually roll out campaigns.
Yeah.
I'll call it campaigns. You can have a campaign for 3 months, no problem. So we call for the leadership to support such programs through which the average South Sudanese citizen and others in their different capacities, in the different offices, the different workplaces, wherever they are across the country, could actually learn more. It should be education not just for us, but also for other people who are not from our country, to also learn about our diversity and learn about our culture. And I also make a call that know yourself, know your history, know your culture, including myself. I'm part of that. I also need to learn about it, and let's heal and let's reconcile and let's work together. There's this African saying that says it's a term that says Ubuntu, which
Ubuntu,
means
yeah.
I am because
Because
we
you,
are,
yeah.
and of course. I am because we are, and if you don't have a support system, we won't get anywhere. So let's be because we want to be, and let's put our hands
I
together.
think you said everything. Usually, I wrap up the show by telling you to be kind, but she said everything, so I'm going to cut it short for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to talk to you next time. I can see a lot of comments online. I will be joining you online and responding to your comments. And if you have any collaborations that you would like to make happen, please send us a DM in to our inbox at Gender Talk 211 on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. My name is Eva Lopa, and I will see you